Hello everyone and welcome to a really awesome game from this year's Bundesliga. A lot of you have requested it as it's just a very crazy game. It's not a one-sided game. Both players are doing awesome stuff in this game, and it's a game between Swiss Grandmaster Noël Studa. Not really sure how to pronounce Swiss names, so I'm gonna go with the German pronunciation, and of course Hungarian Grandmaster Richard Rapport. And it's been a while since we had a classical game, and in Bundesliga all of the games are of the classical time format, so it's going to be pretty wild. So without further ado, let's check it out. Since this is also covered by the Grenke Chess Classic chess channel, by the video team behind the Grenke Chess Classic, also there is an impression video after every round, so I will include a few of those videos in the description below. First thing you will see, so you can see a lot of high quality footage of a lot of very strong grandmasters, if you guys are interested in that. So let's check it out. Studa with the white pieces opens with d4. We have d5 by Rapport and c4 now. We have e6, knight to f3 and c6 going for the Slav defense. We have knight b to d2. This is actually somewhat rarer but also very popular in 2020. Usually you'd see something like e3, queen to c2, maybe knight to c3 here, but knight b d2 also very popular in 2020. And here f5, going for sort of a Stonewall Dutch kind of setup here. We have g3 and knight b to d7 now. Bishop to g2 and now knight to h6. So a very very interesting development of the knights. This knight is coming to f7, and then you want to push g5 and then have the option of g4, f4, and so on. And there's only one game that has reached this position ever. It was a game Bojan Kurajca versus Tomasz Markowski in 1999 that ended in a draw, but in that game castles was played by Kurajca, and here we have queen to c2. So already as of move 7, we have a completely new game. Rapport continues with his plan, knight f7, preparing g5 and b3 here. We have g5 and now e3. We have bishop to d6, continuing development, and bishop to b2 now. At some point, if this diagonal opens up, it's going to be very good for this bishop. Also goes for the light square bishop. We have a5 and now h4. Asking black, what do you want to do here? Will you allow me to open up the h file for my rook, or do you want to maybe push g4? And here Rapport goes g4, which pushes the knight all the way back, but this is only temporary, as this knight will find its way all the way to f4. Now that you've played g4, you weaken the f4 square, which will now become an excellent outpost for Studa's knight. We have castles by Rapport and knight to e2. Going after that f4 square, we have knight to f6 and now knight to f4. And this is now a beautiful piece. Black doesn't have a g pawn to kick it away. You will never be able to play e5 because you will weaken the d5 pawn too much. So that knight is here to stay, or rather until black decides to trade one of its pieces for it. And here we have queen to e7. Developing the queen, we have castles by Studa, and now knight to h8, preparing to bring this knight over to g6 to eliminate white's excellent knight on f4. We have c5 here. White wants to play on the queen side, that's why he plays this somewhat anti-positional move. He wants to play a3 and b4. We have bishop to c7 and now a3, continuing with the plan of b4, knight to g6, now preparing to capture this knight, and b4. We have finally knight captures, we have e captures, and now knight to h5. And this knight to h5 is an excellent move, preparing a sacrifice of the knight on f4. And there's not much white can do about it. White can simply prepare for it and try to endure the pressure, because if you look at it, black has these very advanced pawns, something you might see, for example, in a King's Indian defense, and white's bishops aren't doing all that much here. I mean, both white and dark square bishop are pretty much just, hitting blanks. And black can afford to sacrifice one of the pieces to push, and you will capture, for example, here. You will eliminate this, then you will be able to capture here. Maybe you can bring a rook into the attack as well. a lot of things are possible here. And here, Studa prepares for it with rook to e1, and now Rapport goes for it. Knight captures on f4. We have g captures, and now it's a question: do you capture with the bishop or do you capture with the queen? Now, in human terms, it seems to be all the same. The engine prefers queen captures on h4 slightly more, but engines are weird. But I am going to tell you why queen to h4 is preferred. It's because of rook to e1. That's why you should play queen to h4 first, because white has a defensive idea which involves knight to c4. And if you go queen to h4, it doesn't work all that great, but we're going to show that. Because queen captures on h4, white's idea of giving up the knight to free up this dark square bishop and to create a mating attack will not be all that possible, because now after the capture and the d5, there is no queen here, so black will have the option of capturing with the e-pawn. But just to give you an idea of how crazy the position is, captures with the c-pawn, white also gives up the light square bishop, captures, and now queen to c3, threatening queen g7 checkmate, and here you don't have a good escape. You cannot escape it with the king because the rook covers the entire e-file, so queen g7 will be checkmate. So here you would have to give up the queen and the rook with captures, and captures, and now we have this position: king f7, rook e7 check, trading, for example, the bishops, and now a captures on b4. And now it's a crazy position. White is up the exchange, but black has all of these pawns, and well, if anyone is to be preferred here, it's black. And that's why in this crazy position, after this capture, queen captures on h4 is preferred to bishop captures on f4. But Rapport goes for bishop captures on f4 instead, and now the set line is a bit stronger. Knight to c4. Now if captures, then d5 is a bit stronger. You will never have e d5 because, well, the queen is still on e7. But it could still be played. However, we have queen captures on h4. He just leaves the knight there and allows the knight to infiltrate with knight to b6, which is what Studa does. We have knight to b6, and now there are a lot of moves you can play here. Like, you have to see what happens after bishop check, queen check. You could just maybe decide to save the rook, but Rapport decides to play in great style, hence the quote above the board from the great Misha himself, and he goes e5. And now e5 used to free up the diagonal for this light square bishop. At some point offers even more material. So what the idea is that if, for example, e captures on d5, now you go bishop h2 check, king f1, and now f4 with the idea of f3. And at some point white has to play it f3, and now bishop to f5, it gets another piece into the attack. And now, regardless of what the engine says, the engine might even prefer white here, and I do believe it does. It's going to be... playing this with black is just very satisfying, and it's very natural to play this, even though the engine could probably hold it. So that's one thing that could happen. If you capture the rook, that's a bit too greedy. That just runs into hell. For example, bishop h2 check, king f1, f4 with the same idea. But now f3, you've wasted a move there. With the knight, you're going to get e4. Now this pawn survived, and it's going to be crazy. Captures f3, and you just fall apart. Bishop h1, queen g3, threatening checkmate as the pawn covers the e2 square, and there's no defense. If you try and block it, just queen h3 check. And here, let's say this check opens up the rook, and it's game over. So after e5, white decided to open up the diagonals and the files leading to the black king. So knight captures on d5. He wants to get this bishop here, and of course he wants to get the other bishop fully operational. So can this be done? We have knight captures, after knight captures on d5, we have pawn captures on d5, and now you have to play bishop captures on d5 with check. And now, well, the bishop pair is almost fully operational. However, after this c captures on d5, Studa played rook captures on e5. And now, what do you do here? Well, his idea is, of course, that he wants to eliminate one of Rapport's attackers after bishop captures, and now, for example, bishop captures on d5 check, king g7, and this capture here. Now you're ready to open up all of the diagonals, play e6, e7 maybe, and try and do something about it, as you've eliminated the black's dark square bishop, which is a very important attacker. This light square bishop doesn't really have a clear way of entering the game. and it's gonna be tough for black, but it will be possible. For example, a captures on b4 is a very nice move for black, because you either get to trade down material, or you get a very important tempo preventing this check. For example, king g6 and queen c3, because the pawn now takes away the c3 square from the white queen. So it is a very important in-between move. But after rook captures on e5, we first have bishop to h2 check. Now throwing in this one check, we have king to f1, and only now bishop captures on e5. So how is it any different now that the king is on f1? Well, we have bishop captures on d5 with check, king to g7, and now d captures on e5. And now Rapport goes a captures on b4. Like we said, this is incredibly important, as you either get to trade down even further, or you just cover the c3 square, which is where the white queen wants to go. And here, e6 check, king g6, the black king is remarkably safe here on g6. Like I said, you don't have queen to c3 just yet, so it's gonna be, it's not all that clear how you can increase the pressure here. So instead, after a captures on b4, Studa decided to get his king to safety, but the king is not all that much safer here. Now just capturing an a3 is sufficient for Rapport, but Rapport continues with great style. Rook captures on a3. Now rook captures on a3 is very flashy, but it allows white to, you know, to kind of maybe defend, but it's that's the point of this game, like you know, the deep dark forest and everything. So for example, e6 check, king g6, and now bishop captures, and now the rook might be a very important defender and attacker here. So it's questionable if this is this rook sacrifice is the way to go. However, Studa captured it right away. We have b captures, and now queen to c3. Finally, Studa prepares to open up this diagonal, but Rapport says, no, that's completely fine, f4. We're just continuing the attack. My king will be super safe here on g6. So rook captures on a3, adding another defender to the third rank, and now f3 with check. We have king to e3, and now queen to g5 with check. So where do you go with the king? We have king d3, and now rook to d8, attacking that bishop here. And now it doesn't really matter what you do, because there's not much you can do. White played queen to d4, defending the bishop. But now, feel free to pause the video and win this game in the simplest way possible for Rapport, while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on attacking the pinned piece. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's bishop to e6. This is what Rapport played, and it was in this position on move 35 that Noël resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. You just lose the piece, and that's it. It doesn't really matter if you try king to c4 here, it's all the same. Queen f4 check, you have to move the king and you lose the bishop, or you block with the queen, but then it's just captures, and again bishop to e6, which makes it even simpler, as now the queens are off the board, you're just going to be up a piece, so completely winning, of course. So yeah, brilliant victory. As they say, it takes two to create a beautiful game, and these two definitely have created it. Richard Rapport comes up on top, and he wins this game. And he was a member of the Baden-Baden team that also won Bundesliga, led by Fabiano Caruana, Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, and Levon Aronian, Radoslav Wojtaszek, and a lot of very strong grandmasters. So they win again, as I understand it. They win pretty much every year. And yeah, like I said, if you enjoy watching extreme high quality footage of grandmasters, do check it out. I will put some links in the description below, so you know you can enjoy that as well. I would like to thank Thomas Nob, Matt Reichenbach, Peter Wadek, Marko Lepušić, and Kevin Walker for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Morphy saga, checking up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.